Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Melvin John Ruohonen. We'll be discussing his fantastic book, From Shifting Sand to Solid Rock, available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. And guys, Mel was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best movers in the business, UR Link Print and Media Publishing. So if you have a book that you'd like moved, do yourself a favor and contact our good friends over at UR Link. And you can find out more information on them at urlinkpublishing.com. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Mel, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you so much for being a guest. How are you?
Well, I'm fine, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Welcome, Midwest. I know everybody's listening to me right now. Everybody in the Midwest, yes.
There you go. There you go. Well, listen, we're very much looking forward to the words of wisdom that we're going to be able to receive from you, Mel. Now, before we go into the book, and this first question, because your book is a memoir, may start to spill over, and if it does, totally fine. But let's start by telling our listening audience a little bit more about yourself and your background, please.
I was born in Hancock, Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. My father had an 8th grade education, was not able to read English or write English. All the ancestry came from Finland. My mother had a high school education, and we lived in the Hancock area until we lived on a farm. My father loved the farm, but back in the days in the 50s, when I was born, 47, my dad was able to maintain a little farm, but that had to be taken away because Mom got allergic to animals. So we moved west 70 miles to White Pine, Michigan, to an underground copper mine where my dad could work underground, teach himself to read, to write, get an electrical degree through the mail, and get up in the mill above surface and finish his career there. And it's a tribute to my mom and dad. My dad worked for White Pine Copper for he missed 1.5 days in 26 years.
Wow. He
said he had to go to a funeral. Now get used to my voice today, people, because I believe in happiness. I believe in laughter. And my dad came home and he says, my dad's name was Hjalmar. What a beautiful name. Finnish. Hjalmar, who was this guy? He says, I don't really know. I don't even think I liked him, but I felt bad nobody was going to his funeral. So he went. My dad missed that. Why, Dad, why did you work so much? Well, they buy you steak and French fries if you work 18 or 16 hours a day. So that's my father. And I grew up and graduated from White Pine High School in 1965. Became lotto number for the Army in 1965 when I turned 18. My mother was born in Boston location, north of Hancock, graduated from Hancock High School senior year. So a combination of moving from a little farm up into a mining community is the basis of where I come from and the background that I have. Personally, I'm trying to stay in line where Benji wants me to go, but personally, I graduated from Northern Michigan University with a degree in education, and I won a lot of Scrabble games because when I went to college, I learned a really big word, and you got a lot of points for it in Scrabble. I learned the word probation. I was on probation for 1.5 years because all I did was play the trumpet and dribble a basketball and throw a baseball. And so I got to know why I got more mail than the rest of the kids. I graduated and finished my teaching degree and got my permanent certificate from Michigan State University.
Beautiful. Well, Mel, listen, before we go any further, let me be the first one to tell you here on our network, I've had a very brief stint in education myself. I taught for 4 years, and my significant other is a high school teacher. She's taught for about 15 years now. And, you know, we completely understand the value of education. But more importantly, we understand that teachers never get the amount of credit that they deserve for the amount of work that they have to put in and also the amount of hats that they have to wear. So first and foremost, thank you very much for all the work that you put in, really helping shape and mold the mind of future generations. Now,
well, I was really interested in what you had to say. I want to tell you right now that we had it pretty easy when I started teaching, because the parents respected the teachers. The parents had a mommy and daddy at home. They'd go to work, and we didn't have all this freedom of everything stuff where they didn't have discipline. So when the kids came to school, they knew that they would have to respect the teachers. In fact, we weren't able to go home if we got in trouble because we'd rather face the teachers than our parents, and that made it a lot easier to be a teacher. Now, here's what I have a problem with. In the 60s, that's when the Beatles came out. I don't know if you young people don't even know they're not bugs, okay? They were musicians. They want to hold your hand, though, so be careful. They sang a song, I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Absolutely.
Okay. So my dad thought the world was going to hell because Beatles need a haircut. And look at that music they're playing.
That was controversial.
If he were living today, I think my father would, I don't know, he wouldn't be very happy.
Well, things have definitely shifted, that is for sure. And, you know, it's definitely something that I have spoken to a lot of my family members about, because I have plenty of family members that were part of that baby boomer generation and their overall outlook and perception on the time in the 60s, and especially in comparison to now. And that's really where the heart of your book lies. So, Mel, without further ado, from shifting sand to solid rock, tell us a little bit more about your narrative.
Thank you. First of all, I want to reach out I had about 8 to 10 people come after me to do more with my book, and I did my checking up on them, and I find them all to be after money. And then I reached URL Publishing out of Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I brought a bad attitude to them because I just wasn't going to trust them. I wasn't interested. Mm-hmm. And a young girl, Sherry Ross, after 2 weeks of working with me, was pretty close to getting rid of me. And, remember that word and she found my heart. And I give kudos to her in my book, because when it came to me to deliver a message, Sherry and she corrected me and she helped me. And she was such an instrumental part. And then we have John Keith. Well, I like John Keith because he's the money man. He's a legal beagle. He tells you got to dot the I's. And what a wonderful young man he is. And it's great to talk to. And let me tell you about this book now. There's another employee named Red McGuire. Red McGuire calls me. And Red McGuire calls me and says, Mel, my job was to hand type the first 10 pages of your book so I could get a feel how the author is. So he says, Mel, that poem. Well, Jeannie Milakovich is the reason I wrote the book. Jeannie was a neighbor in a small town called Ishpeming, Michigan. She was a teacher in English in the high school. She moved to Western Upper Peninsula, taught at the junior college, and she says, Mel, you should write a book in 1991. I said, about what? Well, she's every problem they have between extracurricular or taken away from the school or divorces or whatever. They always call you to bring it in there and get them to sit down. And I had not realized that was. It took a lady who was quite biblical, and she pulled her Bible out and looked in talents, and she says, there's your talent. You're a peacemaker without long messages. So that's what you guys are getting from me today. So Red McGuire says to me, let me tell you about that poem. I'd like to change the name of that poem, Red says. Red changes the name from, it was called Forward, which I thought was, I had trouble staying awake like you guys might be having right now. Stay awake out there. Anyway, Red says I want to change it to the author, the butterfly, and the book. And I said, okay. And he goes and he tells me verbatim without reading anything. He calls and tells me that, Mel, you are the butterfly. And I said, oh, and here's what he meant. You have a personality where you fly off into the night, land on a lily pond, on a lily pad, and you check to make frogs are croaking, birds are chirping, the water is calm, and everybody's safe. And in the anonymity of the night, you, butterfly Mel, fly off somewhere to where nobody knows, to another lily pad, a lily pond. And I just pictured my cribbage buddies up in Ishpeming, Michigan. Bruce Greenwood, Jim Hubbard, Jim Loxo, and Dennis Zeke. Dennis Zeke from Wisconsin. Here's what he said when he heard. Butterfly, maybe a baby helicopter, but Melvy's not a butterfly. Okay, so now Jeannie got me into the book. And all these guys from URL, you'd be proud of them if you're married to them, if they're your sons or daughters. They got me to trust them again. And in this world, what I've seen and what I'm seeing today, I don't trust many people, but I sure did URL Publishing. Okay, we go from here. I had several people. See, this isn't a book about me. This is a book about every rotten thing I did in my life or every good thing I did in my life, and I'm going to turn it over to you, the reader, and you can criticize what I did this, but I want to go to this first. So URL says, hey, we want a picture of you. So I called Anne-Marie Bishop. She's from St. Ignace, Michigan, and I said, you know how to run one of these cameras on the phone? She said, no, but my daughter, Mary Elaine Harris, is here, and she'll come down and use your phone. So she came down and had me sitting on a board with the Gulf of Mexico behind me because I live in Englewood, Florida now. She took the picture of me, and she sent it off to URL. So kudos out to Mary Elaine Harris and for Anne-Marie for helping. It's beautiful. I have people that made, when they give you references in front of the book. Mm-hmm. General John Riccatelli from Providence, Rhode Island. Retired, lives in Bradenton, Florida now. He made a comment on my book. He says, brutally honest. Well,
there you have it.
If you're expecting to hear a sermon today, you're not going to have to nudge the guy next to you, okay? He won't be sleeping.
Again, here on the line with Melvin John Ruohonen. We're discussing his fantastic book, From Shifting Sand to Solid Rock, available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. Mel, thank you so much for everything that you've relayed so far. I'm really curious about your title because instantly the imagery that comes up is beautiful, and it absolutely is so enticing. It really is intriguing, and it sucks you in as a reader looking and trying to search for information on your book. Now, talk to our listening audience, Mel. Why did you choose that title to be the representation for your book?
Well, I could put it in layman's terms because I am one of the walking field out here. From shifting sand to solid rock, excuse me, I got a big tongue. Solid rock is the generations today with lack of a foundation, they go to slide around in their life to the bar, to happy hour. They don't have like a church to go to. They don't have peer groups to go to that are actually studying. It's a shifting world for these people out here. And I don't want anybody to read this book if you don't have a foundation. I'm going to tell you people right now, I'm a Christian. Now, don't change the channel. because in the United States of America, freedom of religion. So come into our country, get legal, worship the way you want, but don't come in here thinking you're going to have your religion take over the entire United States of America. That ship won't sail in our world. Come here and join in the united part of our country. Basically, as I put these people through this work today, Benji, as I put them through, they're going to have a little ding go off after I put if you don't believe in a religion or anything, if you don't lie, cheat, or steal. If you don't do those three things, go ahead. This book will help you. But that bell will go off if they get themselves in situations where they may have to tell a lie, but they're only telling a lie to my life, to their mouth, to their ears, and their memory, their mind, their brain, and they're going to have to decide what kind of person they want, because now they have a foundation, which is don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal.
Fantastic. You know, what a great segue that you've established for us, Mel, because going along that message that you've just given to our listening audience is really where I want to go next, okay? That underlying message, the underlying theme of your book, what are you hoping to see people do or take from your book?
Everything that I'm going to say is really exploded in the last get up the last morning. What I'm going to do, I can't tell you that because I'm so fired up for what I'm going to tell you at the end of the thing, but what I'm hoping to do is, how can I say this? I'm not going to tell you guys ahead of time. You have to listen to this thing to get it. Okay, what I want them to do is smile. That's all you get right now.
There it is. There it is. That's the time that Mel chooses to be very selective with his words. You got to leave a lot to the imagination. I love it. I love it. You guys know what you have to do. Amazon, Barnes & Noble are the places you have to go. There's no getting around it. Now, you know, Mel, as we start to tie up this fantastic interview, I'm really curious. We've covered so much information already, but what would you say was a highlight for you? Or if not a highlight, you know, maybe something that surprised you that you weren't expecting prior to embarking upon this journey?
Well, Jeannie Malakovich wrote the poem, correct? Jeannie Malakovich says, okay, I've put 100 hours into this, send it away. I said, where do I send it away? To a publisher. I said, how do you do that? He says, Google publisher, find one and send it. So I send it to Tate Publishing. Now, those of you that know the book industry, everything I had to do with Tate Publishing was perfect. When they ran into the problems toward the end, that's between them. I'm not involved. They did perfect for me. Anyway, I get a box of stuff in Bradenton, Florida. I get a box at my door in my house. Like 4 weeks after I sent it in, and there it is, all these legal things. And we looked at just short of 4,000 books. We chose around 180, and we chose from Shifting Sand to Solid Rock. Please call this number. So I call the number, and it's the president of the company, Dr. Tate. I said, Doc, why'd you pick mine out of that many? He says, because I was reading your book, and he says, I start crying at the top of one page, and then I was laughing in the middle, and I didn't know if you were crazy or not, but I had to keep reading.
You know, so, I think whenever you can...
people out there, if you people lie out there, any of you, Melvin wouldn't like you very much, okay? You don't have to lie. Tell the truth. You're in good shape.
There you go. There you go. You know, Mel, what I love so much about what you just said is, you know, I think as any artist, and of course in this instance, we're talking about you and your artwork being a writer. You always want to formulate that bridge, formulate that connection with your audience. And being able to have one of your readers really express such extreme emotions, right? Laughing on one page, crying on another. I don't know if there's a better compliment that as a writer you can receive from one of your readers, right? Because you really are shifting their lives, right? I mean, you're pulling out that emotional experience and really having that connection solely through words that you put on a page, I think is so amazing. And there's something really beautiful and pure about that. So congratulations on being able to elicit such a strong response. And guys, you know that's what's in store for you. When you head on over to Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, and you pick up your copy From Shifting Sand to Solid Rock by Melvin John Ruohonen, that is exactly what you're going to receive. The words that he put on the page, and I say this a lot whenever I have authors that have written memoirs. What I find so beneficial in learning from someone else's experience is we know, guys, when you get to a certain point in your life, once you get to a certain age, you start to really put things in perspective, and you understand that the experiences that you have had lead to wisdom that you acquire. Now, what is so beneficial about Mel's book is it doesn't always have to be your experience that the wisdom is developed from. When you pick up the book, aside from it just solely being pure entertainment on a page-to-page basis, there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom to be received. And that is truly where so much of the power lies in his book. So do yourself a favor, head on over there and pick up your copy. It's a great journey for you to embark upon, but an even better gift for you to get for someone else. Mel, this has truly been a pleasure, man, and wildly entertaining. So thank you once again for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
You're welcome.